This is the Big Kickoff League of Ireland show. On the show today, Harry Kenny joins us on the panel. Cobh Ramblers Stuart Ashton talks about the Cork Derby and a little bit more. So just click subscribe, share it with your friends, and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland show. We're on the panel. Joining us today is former St. Pat's manager Harry Kenny and, of course, Nathan Doyle from the BigKickoff.com. Harry, welcome to the Big Kickoff again, because you were on the podcast, which was fantastic. We just have a look at some of the games over the weekend, Harry. Dundalk dropped points yet again at the start of the season. They dropped points last week. They dropped points this week against Finn Harps. Can you put a finger on why they've made such a shaky start?
Well, I think they've made so many changes, and I don't think the management know what their best team is up there at this moment in time. And I think they're just getting to grips with all the new lads. And to be fair to them, last week, I think a few of those foreign boys were off playing international football. Now, what they're like, I don't know, but they were missing a few in fairness. But I would have thought they would have beaten Finn Harps before the game kicked off.
Yeah. Last week they brought in South Korea Han Jung-woo. Nathan decided just to call him Han, so that's probably the best thing to do. Harry, tell us about his career so far, will you?
I think he's out of Cabra, that fella in Dublin, isn't
he? That's a good answer. I was waiting for you to stumble on that one, Harry.
I haven't agreed to. Actually, funny enough, I played in Korea with a League of Ireland selection many years ago. They're very good footballers, actually. And obviously with the World Cup and that, they've produced some players. But I haven't a clue who that lad is, to be honest.
No. Well, we got a little glimpse of him at the weekend. And again, of course, they were saying his fitness is great. His touch looked good. He looked like a good dribbler. But he's not the only person they've brought in. We talked about Sonny Nassestad from Faroe Islands. And they have another player coming in. I'll just pop him up there. That's Wilfred Zahibo. He played with Valencia and the New York Revolution. So, Harry, is this the biggest problem here with them, that they've got so many new players in? We're not doubting what quality they might bring, but it's very hard to get a team together so quickly together and for them to gel. Could they have lost the league by the time all these gel?
I don't think so. I think they've enough quality there, Roy, to get back at it and start winning games. It is difficult, and particularly the foreign players, it takes a little bit of time to settle things down. You can see that in any league, whether it's the Premiership or the Italian leagues or anything. It does take time for the foreign boys to settle in. And I think, they would have done their homework on these boys, and they're not bringing in average players. They're bringing in players to replace the Gannons and the Sean Howards and them type of players. So I would expect them to be up and running in the not too distant future.
Okay. Nathan, Ollie Horgan, how is he going to cope with Champions League football next year?
Yeah, how's he going to cope with a decent budget? It's probably the best question. Fair play to Ollie. He's worked miracles on a shoestring, hasn't he, over the past couple of years? Look, we've said it before. It's only early days, as we know, but like, you look at the opening fixtures, playing Bohemians and Dundalk. If you're a Finn Harps fan, you wouldn't have been too hopeful at all. But now all of a sudden, they're sitting pretty top of the table. Adam Foley scored 3 goals in the first 2 games. Yeah, it's fair play to them, and I'm sure we'll be hearing the Champions League team tune winning out up in Ballybuffet very shortly. Here's hoping, because everybody in the league loves Ollie, don't he? Like, Ollie is such a cult figure, so. Look, best of luck. Now, who knows?
This is something I was going to say, because Nathan, you've mentioned him as a character a few times, and I've heard other people talk about him as a character. But Harry, he's obviously more than just the character. He's obviously a bloody good manager.
Absolutely, Roy. I was going to interrupt there and say that he's very good and knows the stuff and knows the strength of the team and plays to the strength. I mean, you mentioned Adam Foley there, Nathan. He was playing with Glebe North there in the Leinster Senior League only a couple of seasons back. And he plucks these out of junior football as well, and plucks them out of the Donegal leagues and stuff like that. He definitely knows the stuff, plays to his strength, and he's a couple of good players up there. He really has. I had, as you know, Dave Webster at Pats, and a very good, reliable centre back that knows the league so well. And he's Ryan Connolly and he's Stephen Folden from Galway. He's a bit of flair in McNamee, so he's a nice mixture of a squad up there. So certainly don't underestimate Finn Harps, and definitely don't underestimate Ollie.
No way.
Nathan, St. Pat's got a 2-1 victory at the weekend. You watched it. I didn't get to see the game. Was it well deserved?
Probably in the second half it was, yeah. They were probably the better side starting things off, but it was a lot of forward, a lot of side-to-side passing, backwards passing, a lot of possession play with no end product, which was unfortunately we did see a lot of that last year too. But yeah, in fairness to Stephen O'Donnell, he made a couple of changes at half time. Tactically wise, the main one being he moved Vaughan and Coughlin out of the middle and put him out wide, which that's where he was more comfortable. Roy, we've seen him at Sligo. He's done a lot of his best work out on the left-hand side. And yeah, look, as soon as Coughlin got out of that central striker position, he came more free. You could see he was more confident on the ball. It just suited his game better. And yeah, the game started to open back up at Pats. And yeah, they probably were just deserved. Fairness to Drogheda, they had spells where they looked very good. They came back well and they made a game out of it, especially in the last 10, 15 minutes. But even though you might look and think that Pat scored a late goal, they might have scraped it a little bit. But yeah, they were probably just about deserved 3 points over the 90 minutes.
I watched that as well, Roy. I'd agree with your analysis of that night. And it wasn't a bad old game. There was some football in it. And Forrester seems to be coming back to his best. Very good on the ball, creating a lot of stuff in the middle of the pitch, you know. So, yeah, I enjoyed that game, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, when you watch Sligo, Harry, the players that they've brought in, the start that they've made, could you look at Sligo now as challengers? Not only challengers, but is there a possibility that this team have the team to go on and win a league?
I'm not so sure, Roy. Bucco's been a great man and a great servant to League of Ireland over the years, as Nathan would well know, and a very good manager, very astute manager. Plays a nice brand of football. There's a bit of a mixed bag up there with lads and stuff. I'm not so overly familiar with the whole squad. He's after bringing in a couple of more new lads. The lad that was at Pats, what's his name, Nathan? That was Gibson. Yeah, he's a good player as well. So I don't think they'll be challenging for the league, but they'll certainly be challenging for the European spot.
Yeah, right. That's definitely. I've watched them in the first 2 games. I've been very impressed with them. As you said, Gibson and young Kenny have, I suppose, and Romeo Parks have. They've got a front 3, 4, even with Walter Ferguera, who hasn't hit the ground just yet. But they've got a strike force there that could win them games that they probably shouldn't win. So, I think you're right. I think they'll be up there. It all depends on what Rovers and Dundalk do this year, whether they let them in or don't let them in. Nathan. Bohemians, again, I might say this the whole year, Nathan, you were tipping them to be in the top 2. I might say this the whole year. They might finish the top 2. But they've made a very shaky start. The 2 games they've had, even going 2-0 up against Longford Town. How do you assess what they've done so far?
Yeah, it's very surprising, especially mainly we're going to be looking at the Longford Town game. Like I said, he went 2-0 up. Very important for Georgie Kelly to get off the score sheet, I think, get his first goal of the season, because they're going to be lacking, obviously, the likes of Danny Grant and Andre White this season. So to have Kelly get his first goal early into the season, it was badly needed. Now they need the likes of Stephen Mallon to step up too and the chip in with goals there. But to be disappointed, to be very, very disappointed. Obviously, going up to Ballybofane, the opening day of the season, it's always a tough place to go, but the performance, by all accounts, was okay. They were obviously very unlucky for the goal. It was very sloppy. But yeah, they'd be extremely disappointed here against Longford. Obviously, the first game of the season at home, got 1-2-0 up at half time. And in fairness to Longford, I know we're only 2 games in, but the surprising people already, Andy, the likes of Grimes is doing very well at the moment. They're going to need guys like Rob Manley to start scoring goals soon to keep the momentum going. But yeah, brilliant result for Longford. And yeah, it's a bit of a strange one for both, isn't it? Like, I know you're going to keep harping on. You're going to keep giving me a bit of grief for putting them up so high, but it's only early days. But they're going to definitely need the likes of Kelly to keep going forward, and they're going to need to tighten up at the back because the goals are leaking in very early already. Yeah,
Harry, you've been a manager in the Premier Division. It's very hard as a manager of a Premier Division club, well, any division in the League of Ireland, to build on what you've done maybe the season before or the 2 seasons before, because you just don't know who you're going to have the following season. There's no such things as, well, very, very rare to have 3 and 4 year contracts. So I'll ask you as a manager, how does a manager deal with that? And how quickly did they try to deal with it when a season finishes? Or did you try to deal with that before a season finishes?
You start the process before the season finishes, but there is a big turnover of players, and if Rovers and Dundalk want a player from anyone else underneath them, they get them, type of thing. All you have to do is look at the bowl scenario with Mandrew heading off up to Rovers, Casey going away to the States. You know, they've had a turnover of players. They brought in about 6 or 7 players, and as we were talking about earlier, it's very difficult for them to gel. But in the league, like, it's normally only sort of 1 year contract, and you're doing reasonably well if you're getting a 2 and 3 year deal. So, you know, it's hard to get that continuity going and having players doing it every year for you.
Yeah, very frustrating for managers throughout the league. You know, I think, in fairness, even Leinster Senior League clubs would have more continuity than the League of Ireland clubs. So, yeah, you can see the struggles that a manager would have. Okay, the First Division kicked off this week, and there was a big game derby between Cork and Cobh Ramblers. And I got to talk to Stuart Ashton about that game and a little bit more. Stuart, welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland show. Delighted to have you on. Probably under better circumstances with the defeat at the weekend in the Cork local derby, 2-1 beaten. When you probably had a couple of days now to digest it, how do you look back at it?
Yeah, first, hi Roy, how's things? Delighted to be on the show. Thanks for having us on. Obviously, as you're saying, the start of the season, local derby. As you say, in the aftermath of it, so to speak, a few days to ponder it over. And if being honest, views haven't changed from the straight after the game. I thought for majority of the game, we were the better side. We played good football. We were organised. We were competitive when we had to be. And unfortunately, the result went against us, and that doesn't make it easier. That we played well. At the end of the day, we all know it's about the 3 points. So from that point of view, we're disappointed, and we have to learn from that.
Yeah. When you look at the 2 goals that you conceded, you must be disappointed with how you conceded. First one's a set piece, a corner kick, good corner kick routine in all fairness, but the second one was very lackadaisy along the back line. I think John Kavanagh, I might be right in saying that he got intercepted, but the ball across from him was very lackadaisy as well, put him in all sorts of trouble. So you'll always look for things. You can always find something in a goal, but I suppose you're going to look at them things and be disappointed probably in them.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what we've got to look at. We've had a session since then, and we've sat down and we've talked about that. And you know, for all the good things we did, we've got to be honest with one another, and we've got to look at what went wrong. And as you say, a set piece, a routine for them, that was fine. If the first part of the routine had gone into the top corner, you'd say, oh, well and good. But to me, he scuffed that, and there's a second phase of play there which we didn't react to, and they were first to the ball 6-7 yards in our box, and that has cost us there. And as you say as well, the second one, we're playing out to what we tried to do, and again we've been caught. What was it, a bad ball to him? Yes, no. Could he have done better? Yes, no. How did we respond? We didn't respond, full stop. And those are the learning ones we've had the discussions about, and those are the ones from the game we've got to learn from those and take the disappointment, and we've got to take the positives then of the way we played, the chances we created, and our performance as a whole.
Okay, so what did you learn about yourselves then? Because the first competitive game, you can only compare yourself really in competitive games. Pre-season, I suppose, it tells you a bit, but it doesn't tell you everything. The first competitive game tells you a lot. What did you learn? And even what did you learn about Cork City and what they might do this year?
Yeah, obviously, as you said, the pre-season games are about the guys getting fit and ready for the start of the league. And we had mixed results in that. You know, we had a good win, and then we came up against the Rovers, the Pats, the Boars, who probably, if we're looking at it, gave us a lesson or two there. And I like to think that we learnt from those games. Obviously, then it's a different scenario when we start the league. And obviously, Cork City are one of the favourites to go straight back up because of who they are. And you know, we respect that. And from our point of view, if they are the standards that are going to go back up, you know, we're saying to ourselves, well, we've given them a good game there, and if we learn from our mistakes on the night, then it gives us a great chance of being where we want to be at the end of the season, at the top end.
Yeah. Do you feel that you can push on, because you're only narrowly out of the playoffs this year? You know yourself, you get yourself in a playoff position, it's, you know, it's knockout. Anything can happen in those sort of situations. So is there a firm belief that you can do something this year?
Yeah, definitely so. We kept the majority of the group together. A lot of them were disappointed in what happened and were wanting to stay, which was a good thing. There wasn't much persuasion. They wanted to be part of it because they felt they missed out, and they felt as a team and a club as a whole that we're going in the right direction. And that's great for us. Obviously, we're promoting it and doing our best to get players in. But again, when players want to be here and they're coming onto staff, can I come in and see where I'm at with the club, etc., then we feel we're going in the right direction. And from that point of view, as I said already, the lads are disappointed and felt they missed out from last season, and they think they've got a point to prove. Having said that, everyone's in the same boat at the start of the season, all fresh faces in different squads, all different plans, etc., and we're no different from them. So again, when you look at those clubs in there and you look at some of the players that have been added, it's the First Division's a great league to be in from that sense, but a hard one to get out of, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at it last year. It was very competitive last year. Anyone could have got into those playoff spots. This year is no different. I suppose with Shelbourne and Cork coming down now, it's even more difficult. Nathan Doyle, who writes in the BigKickoff.com, wanted me to ask you this question. He asked about Charlie Lyons. He was impressed with him last year, and he was wondering, as you said, a lot of players wanted to stay. He was wondering, was there interest for him in the off season?
Yeah, we I wouldn't say had a battle, but we had a conversation halfway through the season. Clubs came in for him in the window last year, and so obviously I had to have my thinking cap on when we were chatting, so to speak. So it was, yes, we had to persuade him to an extent that we were the right club for him going forward. But again, yes, he had offers to go elsewhere, and he was thinking of the wider picture of going playing professional in America and places. So from that point of view, we're delighted, obviously, to have him, and as well that he wanted to stay. It was never a persuasion one. It was, you know, these are our options, and see. Obviously, the one Dave Hurley we lost through to go into full-time football, and unfortunately, at the minute, we're not at that stage. That's where the club hopes to go in the future along the road. But at this stage, the Dave Hurley, we can't compete with that. You know, young kids wanting to be professional footballers, they get the offer of it. Then, from our point of view, you know, we can't stop them doing that, and we won't do. You know, again, if it's the right club and they're going to play and progress their careers, we're not going to stop guys doing that. So from that point of view, as I said, with Charlie, he was delighted. He thinks his future's here, where he can progress from us, which is, from our point of view, brilliant that they feel that way.
Yeah, that's a positive. That's a huge positive that thought process is there. I was doing a little bit of research about you. On one side, I looked up your age. It said unknown, so I said this fella must be ancient. All right. Then I look back and I seen that you played in the first ever competitive game for Cork City, so that confirmed all my beliefs.
That's right, yeah. That I mentioned,
you've been around Cork City. You've been around with Cobh, Ramblers, so you know the area. You know the football down there. Why haven't Cobh fixed themselves? And it's a big enough city and a big enough area. Why haven't they sort of fixed themselves in a Premier Division position?
The problem for me there, Roy, is that obviously you've got and as they say over in England, the noisy neighbours. You know, it's one of those that Cork City have the history there of being the Premier League club, and unfortunately, that's whether we like it or not at the minute, and we're hopefully changing that, as I said already in what we said about the Charlie Line stain and the lad stain from last season, that, you know, we're changing that, where now there's a belief that the club is going places on and off the pitch, and for the youngsters to see that, and hopefully with myself in charge at the minute and the staff we have, that we've got youngsters coming in and getting opportunities in the first team, you know, and hopefully it's a pathway. We're creating a pathway there in the club for these youngsters, not only to play for us, League of Ireland, but as I said already, if the progression for them is to somewhere else and it's the right one, that's the progression, and we're delighted for that as well, as long as everything's put in place and done right for those kids. We're happy to be part of that, so to speak. But again, the long term is for us to keep those lads at the club and be fighting, as we say already this season, for a place in the Premier, and then to establish yourself in the Premier. As I said, like any other club. But I think, you know, we've got foundations going in the right direction at the minute, and hopefully down the road, that's where we'll see the club.
Yeah, you talk about progression. The Munster Senior League down there, a lot of clubs, well, in the Munster area have used those players. How important is that league to the area?
Yeah, definitely so. You know, it's a great league there. The main one in the area, obviously, and it's what the kids are brought up on. You know, obviously the League of Ireland clubs are going. The underages are going lower and lower, so that you're getting the teams in at, you know, 13s, 14s, 15s, 17s, and, you know, they're getting the coaching there. But without the local clubs, you know, the League of Ireland clubs won't survive. That's the starting base for most players. You know, they go around the corner to the local club with their mates, and they enjoy the football. And it sees where they take them. There's always the rising stars at those levels, and, you know, especially for us at the minute, as I said, we're grateful for those clubs and delighted to help the guys on the way and help those clubs as much as we can with tie-ins to them, you know.
Yeah, with the League of Ireland. It's an easy sell for people who love League of Ireland. There's a lot of people who love it. There's a lot of football people who don't give it a look. So how do we make the brand of League of Ireland more appealing to those type of people? How do we, even though they're football lovers, they wouldn't think twice about going to a league game here? Is there anything that you would put in place? Is there anything that you would see that could help improve that side?
Obviously, again, it's the $60 million question. How do we get these guys in, like, with so much TV coverage of the Premier in England, the Spanish La Liga, etc., etc. So, you know, unfortunately, we're competing with those guys. But again, I think we're going in the right directions. You know, we've at the minute with the pandemic, we've got the LOI there, which is a great one where people can tie in. And I think, you know, at the minute, you know, people are tuning into that to see what's happening. And hopefully then these guys, once the crowds can come back, that they'll say, geez, I might go and watch that Cobh team. They didn't look too bad when I watched them playing. You know what I mean? And vice, you know, for all the clubs that are playing, you know, hopefully, you know, and they see a local talent and say, geez, he's one to watch. I might go and watch him live, like, and see.
Okay, so you talk about the League of Ireland and players coming through. One of the players I've seen is young Gibson for Sligo Rovers, who has been excellent. He was with Pats last year. He's someone who gets your bums off seats. You're going to have someone dribbling at a player. When you look at the Republic of Ireland the other night, they didn't have players like that. So what are we doing? And what's your view on how we're coaching our players in Ireland, how we're developing our players, and why we're not getting the types of players that get bums off seats?
Again, you know, it's one. This is an opinions one. You know, it's a case of, you know, who's the best player. Is it Ronaldo or is it Messi? You know, we all have our own opinions of how we want to play and how we do play. You know, is it results orientated? Would you rather have a win playing the dirty game? Would you have a win playing the beautiful game? We all want to win that way, but is that always the way? No, it's not. So, you know, that's the beauty of football, that, you know, everyone has an opinion of who's the best, what's the best team, what way we should play, you know. Yes, I agree. We'd all love to have the players that can dribble, the Messis, the Ronaldos. But again, you know, the coaching side of it has to be, for me, and for the kids, an enjoyment from day one. And even to this day, the last thing I said to my players going out, go and enjoy yourself. And I honestly believe that if a fella's enjoying himself, he's playing well. And you know yourself, you're not playing well, you're getting angry with yourself, you're not enjoying it, little things. So the last thing I said to anyone I'm dealing with before they go to a game is go and enjoy yourself, be yourself, enjoy yourself. And I think, you know, that's one that we've got to get into the young kids from day one. You know, yes, you know, your opinion of how a fella dribbles and my opinion, you know, those are the variants, but we've got to get those. And again, a lot of it is starting from the younger ages and getting those little things into it, the techniques and the ball skills. You know, we have to have the coaches at the lower levels that are dedicated to that, which I know there are, but you know, we have to keep working on that. You know, I think unfortunately, again, it comes down to the bigger issues, the money, etc. You know, you go to the teams abroad, and you know they've got the 6-7-year-olds in, and the coaches there, and they're in 3, 4, 5 times a week, and with the youngsters. Unfortunately, at this stage, as I said, there's a coaching pathway there which is improving the league as a whole all the time. You know, we've got to go down to those grassroots levels and, you know, and invest in it. If we're being honest, you know, that's the way it has to go forward. And hopefully then we can reap the rewards later down the line. You know, it's obviously that takes time. And it's something we've got to look at as a whole, I think, for the League of Ireland and the future of the international teams.
Yeah, I definitely, and I do think that it's with the League of Ireland clubs, I do think they need to link in as much as they possibly can with the local clubs around and give the experience, their coaching experience, to the coaches that are around. You'll find that there's an awful lot of clubs who you may get a player here and there coming out through natural skill, what have you. But a lot of parents get thrown in the deep end and they're not familiar with it. So if the League of Ireland clubs, it benefits them, it benefits everyone in the long term. So hopefully the clubs do that. With Cobh, how are you enjoying down in Cobh? How are you enjoying the team? How are you enjoying managing down there?
Yeah, I'm delighted at the minute here. Obviously, for me, it's about the coaching and being in with the lads, as we've talked about there. I've done coaching for a long time, as you so rightly mentioned earlier. So from that point of view, that's what I love doing, and if I keep getting enjoyment out of it, I'll stay as long as I can doing it, and that's my big buzz to get it. And when you see then individuals that have gone on to be successful, that's part of what it's about for me. Obviously teams then as well doing well, but again, if you have some part of a player who goes on or a team that does well, then obviously that's the rewards, and that's why I'm stuck in it, as they say.
Stuart, listen, thanks so much for your time. It's been great talking to you. We're looking at, of course, we're keeping an eye out for Cobh this year, because it's such an interesting league this year, and to be able to have that option to go and watch a game anytime you want now with the LOI TV and with the Premier Division watch LOI. It's definitely benefiting the league. And as you said rightly, hopefully there's a bit of a pickup from people who watch these games and go, that's not too bad. So Stuart, first of all, thanks for playing your part in the league, and second of all, best of luck for the season.
Thanks very much, Roy. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Harry, we'll talk about the Republic of Ireland situation a little bit later, but when you look at Cobh Ramblers, can you put your finger on why they haven't made sort of a permanent position in the Premier Division, why they haven't pushed on? The county is big enough for two teams down there, surely.
It's definitely big enough, all right, and Cobh have been good over the years, but I think the last while, Roy, with Stephen Henderson there, and that, whilst they've done reasonably well, all their best players get taken. Like, even for example, this year there's a lad there, Hurley, who played in the middle of the pitch for them, very good player. Like, he's gone off with John Caulfield up to Galway. So any sort of decent players that they produce, they're taken straight away. So that's hard to keep producing them young lads coming through. So it's either Cork or Galway or anyone down around the Munster area, Waterford. They'll take players on them straight off the bat,
Yeah, Nathan, Colin Healy be delighted with a 2-1 victory at home in their first game, especially after such a rocky season last year. This gets them on the road again, back to winning ways, a bit of confidence. I suppose if they had lost, it would have put a little bit of doubt in their mind. So it's a good start for them. Yeah,
it is a good start. As you said, it's been a turbulent time for the club, and I'm sure we can agree. It's a shame to see Cork City down the first division. It's a side with obviously such a big county in Cork, such a big city, and a side with plenty of history even in recent years. So to see them drop down to the first division is a shame, but look, that's just unfortunately the way it is. In fairness, they kept a hold of a couple of players, the likes of Corey Galvin, Dylan McGlade, King Coleman, who scored against Cobh over the weekend. So that was pretty important for them. Yeah, but they're going to need to be. These are the sort of games they need to be winning. Like Cobh look okay. They're the past couple of seasons, like Harry said, it was tough to hold on to a lot of the good players. You sort of settle into this mid-table solid club, and that's probably where they're going to be this season. But yeah, Cork City will have to start winning them sort of games, because it's going to be tight with this season. There's a lot of clubs vying for a lot of viable clubs as well, looking to get up to the playoffs. So it is going to be very tight. So if they drop points against it like a Cobh Ramblers already, they'd be just a bit of a negative buzz around them heading into the season.
Yeah. Harry, you're down with Wexford now. You're helping out down there. I suppose it's a club that people have looked at and they're probably still building. What's the expectations down there? Is there a plan?
There's an expectation to get off the foot of the table for starters. That they weren't too clever over the last couple of years, but as you say, they're a good club. The facilities are pretty good. got a few players in this year. Certainly looking to do better than last year for sure. There's the manager there, Brian, is doing a great job. He's a tough task. He hasn't the biggest budget in the world, so they're improving. They're just taking it step by step. They'll never go out of business, Roy, because they do things right and they don't overspend or anything like that. So, they're taking things slowly. So I'd like to see a small improvement this year to get up the table a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't start off too well. A 2-1 defeat to Cobh and Teely. How did that game go? Again, don't get to see every game, so you were the eyes there. How did that game go? What way did it swing?
Well, to be fair to Cobh and Teely, they don't play a whole pile of football, and in fairness to them, they lost a few players to a couple of clubs around the league, and they came with a good game plan with the 5 at the back and played the long balls, played for corner kicks and long throws and this type of thing. So they played to their strengths, and in fairness, I thought Wexford should have got something from the game, but it wasn't to be. Had most of the ball in the second half, but just couldn't score. So we'll see how we go next week against Treaty.
Yeah, and that'll be a very interesting game. We'll talk about Treaty now in a minute. And Nathan, if there was ever a score line on a pools panel that you looked at, it would be Shelbourne 0, Galway 0. That's the way it ended. That was nearly a gimme. But the likes of UCD, Athlone 2-2. Athlone shown they're not going to be pushovers this year.
No, they're not at all, and that was a difficult start. Obviously, a lot of questions around UCD with Yo-Yo Maddy leaving the club. He was obviously the league's top goal scorer last year. But look, they have the likes of Whelan, they have the likes of Dignam, the likes of Liam Kerrigan that will still provide goals for UCD. So they're always going to be a problem with the squad that they have at the moment. And in fairness to Athlone, I think another side that I bigged up a little bit during the off-season. I thought the improvements they made were absolutely fantastic. And yeah, look, it's a great result, and to score a goal in was it the 95th minute or something? It was very late in the day. Yeah, they'd be delighted with that. The next game now at home, they'd be looking to push on and start picking up points now. But again, similar to Cork City, it's going to be the likes of Cork, the likes of Athlone, the likes of UCD. They're going to be vying for them last 2 player positions, and it's going to be tight. So yeah, it's a very good win in the grand scheme of things for Athlone.
Yeah. Harry, you mentioned Treaty, and they went away as their first competitive game against Bray, who'll be one of the fancy teams. A fantastic draw. They would have took that all day long, and it's great to have a club from the Midwest back in there. You don't want gaps around the country where there's no football. So, yeah, they'd be chuffed with that start.
Oh, you definitely need a club over that side of the country. Definitely, there's huge, as you know, good football catchment area there, and they've done reasonably well over the years. I watched that game yesterday, and I'll never get back that hour and a half that I lost. But I suppose the wind spoiled it in that, but it wasn't the best game of football in the world. Yeah. I suppose Bray be a little bit disappointed that they didn't come out winning the match, but they didn't create enough on the day. They have a lot of good players, Bray, and I would expect them to be challenging for a promotion spot. But Treaty were dogged. They were decent. They'll be certainly hard to beat. There were a couple of players from the Munster Senior League, the Pikes and those type of teams. They're a good setup. There's Cooltrain, ex-Rovers, the Ludden, ex-Galway. There'll be no mugs, that's for sure. And I think they'll do well in the league.
That's good. That's good to hear. Well, that's what we want. We want a bit of competitiveness, especially with the new teams. You don't want to see them getting in trouble. We have to talk about this because League of Ireland's connected to the Republic of Ireland. We had a couple of disappointing results with Serbia and Luxembourg. Harry, what was your assessment on the 2 games?
I was surprised, I must admit, at Stephen changing to a 3-4-3. Like he was always a good 4-2-3 man, as we know, with Dundalk, and played a lovely brand of football and did very, very well. I don't know whether that new coach that came in from Chelsea had an influence, because Chelsea obviously used the same playing style there that might have influenced Stephen a little bit. But in fairness, they played reasonably well against Serbia without creating a whole pile. Maybe they should have got something out of the game. The Serbs came on very strong in the second half and changed a little bit tactically. As regards the Luxembourg game, I was very surprised, I must admit, Roy, that they were as good as they were. They were a good side. They played a lot of football. You know, you wouldn't have seen the sort of gap in their ratings. So they're something like, are they something like 100th in the world or something like
They're
that?
close. I think they're in the top 100. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have seen that gap there. And I thought they were a good side, and the lad that scored the goal obviously played in the Champions League and all that sort of stuff. But I was a little bit disappointed now with them against Luxembourg. I don't know whether I would have kept a bit of experience around the middle of the pitch in Hendricks and that, because we never really got going, I didn't think.
Yeah, I did. It's funny because Nathan, we talked about it. The second half performance again seemed to pale in significance compared to the first half performances in both games, and maybe that's what Harry's talking about. That experience just, I suppose, could have been needed in those both halves.
Yeah, it's a lack of experience, as Harry said, and it's also a lack of creativity, you know. And in fairness, I thought the likes of Nye, Cullen, Brown in the midfield, of the two games, they'd be fairly impressed, but none of them are really overly creative in terms of the passing and the range of passing. They're more like workhorses and work race types of players, and that's a big thing we're missing. Obviously, we all know about the goal scoring issue. You know, we're crying out for a goal scorer. And unfortunately, even some of the younger lads in the squad at the moment, you can't really point out and say that they're going to be the answer going forward. A lot of them there is a good few of them just not playing regular football at club level, and that's absolutely vital to be coming into your international team full of confidence and scoring on a regular basis. And that's just not there in the squad at the moment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Harry, I suppose it's like a shock for the nation, but really this has been coming a long time. We've been dropping down year after year in our standard of play, the way we played, and with the development of players in the country, we're obviously not developing game changers. We're developing. I do question sometimes the coaching badges, the coaching. Everything seems to be create a same type of player, create a same type of play. We don't seem to have different types of player that can unlock different type of situations.
Well, it's all about this PlayStation football underage, you know, playing out from the back, and has to start off in your 18-yard box and get it into a midfielder. And if you don't have the players to do that, Roy, you're at nothing, you know. So we haven't developed, like, there's a huge gap between, you know, people talked about the 21s and how good they were, and, you know, all them lads coming through. There's a huge gap between the 21s and senior international football. I would have expected one or two players to come through. Like, Connolly is definitely, I think, the real deal. He's a very good player. As regards the other lads coming through, I'm not so sure, you know. We're struggling for really good players. You look at the defence, Seamus Coleman have to play as a right-sided centre-back, that type of thing. There's just not the quality out there coming through, and could be a tough couple of years coming up.
I think so. I think we are where we are, and we'll just have to accept that at the moment, and hopefully in years to come that starts to change again. I mean, you look at every country. I suppose we've only qualified for 3 tournaments out of the last 13, so it shouldn't really be a surprise. It's just how effective we are on the pitch. We aren't as much as we were. Okay, we're going to leave that there. Harry, thanks very much. Nathan, thanks very much. Great weekend of football coming up this weekend. Full fixture, but big game against Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers in Tala. So we'll be talking about that on the Sports Bar live on Friday night, 9:45. Join us, because we want you to comment. Come in live, throw your comments in, your topics, your debates. If people aren't talking about it, it's your chance to talk about it on YouTube as well. And so you can click and subscribe for that. See you next week.